So I started Waste Consultants. I ran across a company that was based out of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, which out of complete coincidence is where I'm from. And they had this training program. They had done the business on their own, and they decided to offer this training program that would teach other people how to get into business for themselves. And so I did that, and I went to a training in Dallas, Texas in February of 2002. We consider that our start date. And that was my spring semester of my junior year, and so I did it very part-time while I was in school. Got it off the ground that summer, and then did it also part-time as I finished up my senior year in college, and then went at it full-time immediately upon graduating. There were a few things that I was really attracted to, specifically with the business itself. Low overhead, not a lot of capital required, which I didn't have any because I was a college kid. But the business itself, I thought there's always been garbage. There probably always will be garbage. There's so many businesses out there. I just sort of guessed, thankfully it was an accurate guess, that there probably were a lot of companies that were getting overcharged. And I also like the idea of providing value to something where people had not given much thought to. I just figured people were probably paying their trash bills, not thinking about them much. And it was a way to sort of come in and provide real value and effectively reduce their expenses to what we found out is a very large line item. There's a few things that I think are really special. The thing that we get the most credit for, the thing that people comment on the most, is obviously our business model. It's performance-based. Some people call it gain share or shared savings, but we share in the savings with our clients. We don't ever charge them anything up front, and everything we do is performance-based. So we have to perform in order to be compensated, which gives us a ton of incentive and gives the clients a lot of assurances that we're doing, what we say we're going to do. The other thing I would say that makes us unique, or that we really are proud of, is just how we treat people. And so more along the lines of our company values. So servant leadership and doing the right thing, admitting our mistakes. I can remember a very specific example where we had missed something and for a client, and didn't really know how the client was going to react. We had this internal dialogue, and it's always helpful to have that North Star to go back to that thing. Let's go, no, this is who we are. This is what we do. This is how we treat people, regardless of how they respond to finding out that we had messed up. We need to tell them the truth. And as it turns out, we told them it was no big deal, but it really didn't matter. We just had to tell them. And so that's just an example. And we really try, and I think do consistently act in that manner. Early on, I was 22, and I looked like I was 22. And so it was partly just overcoming people thinking, who is this guy? And maybe it was a thing, maybe it wasn't, I don't know. Maybe it was self-imposed, but I felt it because I didn't really know anything about the waste industry. I was kind of learning along the way. And so just learning the business, because I didn't have there's no degrees in waste consulting. And so I didn't know. And so I learned along the way. The second, and maybe even bigger challenge, probably was a bigger challenge, was, and we still experience it a little bit to this day, is just the education component. And so still to this day, almost 18 years in, most of our clients have never engaged with a service like ours. And so there's still that understood thing of like, if this is really a thing, if you really can help me, why has nobody else ever called me? Why haven't I heard from another Tyler at another waste consultants? And we see it more and more, but it's that education component of teaching people, educating people why they're getting overcharged on their waste expenses, why a service like ours would be helpful, and why our industry even exists in the first place. So there's a few reasons that we do what we do. Namely, most practically, people are getting overcharged, and people have no answers to their problems with their waste haulers, and there's a huge need to help people reduce and manage their waste disposal expenses. Secondly, there's probably sort of a justice component to it, to like, it's just the right thing to do. And so whether you want to call us the watchdog or the independent advisors, we really like the role and think it's an important role to play to help people, assist them with information that they don't know exists or don't have access to, helping them deal with these waste issues. Another reason we do what we do is we look at stewardship as we understand it from a biblical perspective. And what we mean by that is stewardship of stewarding people's resources. And resources are their actual waste, where it's going, making sure it's not ending up in rivers or places it shouldn't end up, helping them steward that, but also helping them steward their finances. And so helping them make sure that they are getting the best bang for their buck. They're not spending any more that they need to, and they're not spending their wheels on things that they don't need to spend their wheels on. And then lastly, I think one of the reasons we do what we do is to generate income, to generate profit in order as a means to fund things outside of the business, whether it be trips to Kenya that I've been involved on. One of our employees was involved with a 5K race to raise money for a fallen firefighter. Things like that are really important to us, that we're giving back, that we're generating enough additional profit in order to see those things that are really important to us, near and dear to our hearts, that we can be a part of those things. We recently had a client who, you can hear more details, I think, in some other videos and blog posts we've done, but they were overcharged something like 900% one month. And we see overcharges all the time, but that one was just crazy out of sorts. And we assumed it was a mistake, and it wasn't just they were getting the price raised. But if that was the end of the story, we wouldn't be talking about it right now. It turns out they were getting overcharged, and it took, I think, 4 or 5 months for us to capture it. The billing kept getting changed back and forth, and we were getting so much different information from the hauler. And so we just walked with that client every step of the way. And I can only imagine what that client would have faced if they had to go at that alone, not knowing what we know, not having access to the people at this hauler that we had access to. It took us 5 months, knowing what we're doing, knowing who to call, just staying on it, not having anything else to do, like serving this client. You can imagine that manager at that location, or the owner of this company, or whoever, having to deal with it. It would have been just an incredible drain on resources. And so it really highlighted the value that we bring to the table. And that's just a part of what we do. We weren't compensated per se for all that effort. That's just built into what we do on the monthly shared savings component. I also can think of another example recently with a client who has, based on the industry they're in and the clientele they serve, very, very tight margins. And we were able to reduce their bill at one of their locations from $3,000 a month down to $1,000. And so it's $2,000, and we're sharing that. And it's not like life-changing amounts of money. But for this particular client, they were so thankful because, again, of the industry they're in, what it meant to them. It really, everybody says every penny counts. In their case, every penny really counts. And they were very, very thankful.